So let's watch the Internet Darkest Corner 4. I think I haven't seen this one.
Is that while they were you've heard before, it's impossible.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one.
Weight and engine instruments are dependable reference.
His videos are always pretty interesting.
And captain peer out into the distance to find the smooth, clear way ahead.
August 31st, 1988.
Oh boy.
An airplane sits motionless at the Dallas-Fort Worth
Then
airport
crash.
as passengers begin to slowly take their seats. 78 people in total were scheduled to fly that day, with the craft being piloted by Captain Larry Davis, First Officer Kerry Kirkland, and flight engineer Stephen Judd.
Well, they're alive,
The crew
so
boasted an impressive 30,000
might be
hours of
fine.
flight time amongst them. It was a notably windy day for the flight bound for Salt Lake City, Utah. So much so that by the time they had pulled away from the gate and reached the runway, a call was sent down to the cockpit directing them to hold their position for an additional minute, as the gusts now swelled more and more ferociously. The hold again left the craft stationary, allowing for a few moments in which the crew members spoke amongst themselves.
We forgot something on our first leg today.
You forgot something?
Discuss about the dating habits of our flight attendants so we can get it on the recorder, you know, in case we crash, then the media would have some kind of a juicy tidbit.
What? I hope it's not foreshadowing. I hope it's not foreshadowing.
The voice you're hearing is that of First Officer Kerry Kirkland, who mentions a point that, in passing, seems completely out of the blue, that they should talk about the dating habits of their flight attendants, as it would give the media something to talk about in the event that they crash.
It's just a dark joke,
As
obviously.
bizarre as this line sounds, Kerry was actually referencing a separate incident that had happened not even a year before,
Oh.
with that being the crash of Flight 1713.
A few seconds of indescribable terror on runway 35 left. Too many people die in an instant. We ask again, why them and not us?
In that scenario, the pilots of the flight had also been awaiting takeoff, this time in the midst of a brutal blizzard. And rather than discussing their takeoff, they instead had conversations about the stewardesses on board, joking and laughing amongst themselves about the manner in which they dated around. With these pilots getting so lost in that
Yes,
conversation
good
that they
ASMR.
completely forgot to de-ice their plane.
Oh my
a mistake
god.
they likely never even realized, as just moments after takeoff, rather than the plane soaring high above the ground, it raised only slightly before falling limp, crashing into the dirt below it and killing 28 people on board, including those two pilots.
All that because they're talking about
The
that.
story made national and international headlines, making it a topical reference for Kerry to bring up, yet
Okay.
also a clearly inappropriate one, as he
Very
had failed
dark
to
joke.
notice the irony in his words.
Yeah.
Following the crash of 1713, new stricter guidelines were put in place so that pilots would keep their conversation focused on the takeoff process until they were well established in the air.
Like, I get it that on your job, you want to, you know, sometimes you're bored and you want to talk about something else or make jokes or something, but you're a fucking plane pilot, I mean. Like, it's kind of serious business. Like, if I'm at my job with my fucking chainsaw and I'm cutting a tree up by my own, whatever, you know, but if you're like you're trying to drive a plane and you have like 100 people's life in your hand, maybe keep the joke for once you're not actually in a plane.
Yet here, Kerry was joking around with the crew, not even noticing that he too was creating a distraction.
Oh my
One
god.
that sucked in not only one of their flight attendants, but even the captain himself.
We were just talking yesterday, you know, about 191 seems to be the classic airline crash that the news media goes for every time.
Which led to Kerry providing one last bit of gallows humor.
Oh my
You know
god.
that Continental that crashed in Denver? Did you read that? Yeah, they were talking about dating habits of one of the flight attendants. Had a real nice, yeah, that made me laugh, you know. We gotta leave something for our wife and children to listen to.
He was well aware of just how much the media loved a good plane crash segment. And unbeknownst to that distracted...
I mean, it's a fine joke, right? It's like, it's a dark joke, but it's fine. If they weren't about to crash themselves, it's like, yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
crew within the cockpit, they were about to give them a fresh story.
Seriously.
Tower set. Engine instruments look good. Airspeed's coming up both sides. VR, D2.
Whoa.
Engine failure. We got an engine failure.
So is it their fault or is it an engine failure? Damn. I hate this kind of... Yeah, this kind of like final recording just before they crash. There's so many with planes,
22
so many.
seconds. That's all the airtime the craft could muster, as immediately upon the wheels lifting off
Oh,
the
so it
ground,
barely
the
got
craft
up,
began to roll right, with the wings striking the runway and catching on fire as it clipped a nearby antenna that was anchored to the ground. The plane was immediately uncontrollable and completely unable to gain any sort of significant altitude, as it fell into a pathetic descent and crashed into the dirt below it, sliding well over 1,000 feet before grinding to a halt.
No, so it did go up again.
In the carnage, 14 people would lose their lives, including 2 of the flight attendants, while miraculously, all others survived, including everyone heard.
The pilot fucking survived. That's what I thought. Like, I thought the footage at the beginning was like them, maybe after it. It's even worse. I mean, maybe dark to say, but like, if I was those guys, I would rather be dead at that point. Like, I just made the joke, and then I made the exact same mistake, and then people died because of me, and I'm still alive, and people will hear my shitty joke. I mean...
on this fateful recording, all of whom were swiftly fired, though not criminally convicted, despite the fact that the crash was deemed to have been caused by their own human error. What the crew had failed to realize was that as they joked about the pilots of Flight 1713 and their untimely distraction, they too had distracted themselves to the point
How
of
do you kill people and you're not prosecuted? Survivor's guilt.
an integral step of the takeoff process. They had failed to lower their wing flaps and slats for takeoff, and without these in proper position,
it's their fault.
The flight never stood a chance.
It's their fault.
Final words inside that cockpit, some of the most chillingly ironic ever recorded.
Are they not
this audio
prosecuted?
went on to become yet another disturbing oddity found within the dark corners.
Oh my god, that's insane. Like, how do they get off scot-free? That's absolutely insane. That's absolutely insane. Alright, well, that's sad.
Before we get into our next case, I want to first thank today's sponsor, Aura. We live in a time when literally everything can be found online. We have a world of information
this is the real guy.
at our fingertips, and sadly that information typically includes
never seen the real guy.
personal details. Details that you
feels
don't
weird.
even know are being shared. Yet there they are. And if
That
you
feels
don't believe
weird.
me, just try Googling
This isn't
your
like a
name,
dream
and the
level of
chances are
weird,
you'll
but...
probably find more information than you would ever want to be out
Damn.
there. And this is true even for myself. And the constant awareness of knowing just how accessible my private information was is something that always made me uneasy, which is why I am so grateful for Aura. Aura identifies the data brokers who are out there selling my private information and automatically submits opt-out requests on my behalf.
At what point do you stop caring about your information being stolen? I mean,
which is a testament to just how good
at this point, who cares?
are. You want to be in control of your information, and stopping data brokers is a great step into doing that, but you also have to protect yourself from companies who may be careless with your information. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this, but recently AT&T revealed that over 73 million of their customer records from both current and former customers were released onto the dark web. Now, for those affected, they recommended using strong passwords, monitoring your account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura does all this for me. And the best part is I don't have to download several different apps just because one company couldn't keep my data safe. So if my information had been compromised in that leak, I wouldn't even have to worry, because Aura is always on, and they're always doing the hard work to keep me safe online. I value my privacy, and I value yours as well.
I've heard this sponsor quite a few times. I have no idea if this is actually, you know, like something that actually works and help. Like on paper, you know, obviously I don't want to shit on a guy's sponsor, but on paper, when you think about it, like every single site, everything is tracking you and leaking your info and all that. So can there really be a miracle like thing like Aura? Even if they like decrease by 90%, in the end, does it even matter if you still have 10% of your stuff leaking? Yeah, I don't know if it's really a good service. I don't know enough. Just saying. Just saying.
JJ didn't know how much time had passed when he first noticed the soundless haze
That's creepy.
moved in all around him. JJ could no longer see the stars or the moon.
Snapshot from the sky. Is it someone sending like a nude before crashing or something?
Just how important it is for pilots to properly check their crafts before taking off. Something that even as a pilot in training, 18-year-old Connor Quisenberry understood all too well. A well-studied student of the ATP flight school, Connor had made it his life's mission to become a pilot, completing a multitude of classes and courses at the school. And by the age of 18, only a few steps stood in the way of him obtaining his private pilot's license, the most daunting of which being the high number of flight hours needed. And so on September 27th, 2023, Connor was scheduled for a nighttime flight with ATP instructor Timothy McKellar, in which he would pilot a small prop plane on a 3-hour-long journey, thus bringing him 3 hours closer to that coveted license.
Sure.
McKellar was just 22, a young man himself, and he had not been Timothy's usual instructor, but that day he was the only pilot available to assist Connor. In fact, it was the first time the two had ever even flown together, and it was clear from the get-go that it was probably going to be their last. Recognizing the importance of checking over your plane before takeoff, Connor had begun performing a lengthy check of the craft to ensure that everything was in working order.
Makes sense.
Exactly what most instructors would probably want to see from their students. But apparently not McKellar, as unbeknownst to Connor, his flight instructor had pulled out his cell phone during his checks and recorded the following video for his Snapchat.
Oh. Me and my student would not get along if he was my first-time student. I've seen faster at the Special Olympics. So he was a piece of shit, I see. I mean, I guess the joke is fine, maybe. But the fact that he's doing this joke rather than like check if the student is checking like the safety well. Come on. Come on. But actually that reminds me of like, it's obviously like maybe a little less dangerous, but when I was driving, I was doing like driving course. I had 2 instructors that were good, and I had one that was like hello unknown that one time pulled out his phone, and instantly I felt absolutely terrified. Basically, he was looking at his phone instead of like looking at what I was doing, and obviously like on the side of the teacher, you know, they have the like a second wheel and second pedals to stop the car in case you fuck up. But no, he just pulled out his phone and he was like texting or something. It was pretty terrifying, yeah. It was pretty terrifying, I remember that. But he was just an asshole overall. Like, outside of that, he would basically just be the type of like just, you know, be super like, I wouldn't say scream at you, but like super like, you know, insanely nervous and kind of loud. Like, you know, I'm like 10 hours into learning how to drive. And it would constantly like make you more stressed by the way he acted stressed himself, I guess. It was a pretty bad one.
The post was scathing, and despite the student pilot not doing anything out of the ordinary, McKellar seemed displeased at the speed at which Connor was operating, telling his friends on Snapchat how glad he was that Connor wasn't his full-time student, and that he'd seen faster movement at the Special Olympics. It was clear that McKellar wanted no part of this flight, and that the two could be in for a long, tense evening.
Yeah.
McKellar's passive-aggressive attitude only
Why did they start fighting in the plane? I don't have to be up at 4:30 AM tomorrow or nothing. Let's take our sweet ass time and have a conversation instead of getting this 3-hour flight done. I mean, so I say, like, can you be any more unprofessional? You're the fucking teacher. And rather than like just tell the student to hurry up or something, you're just like complaining like an idiot on fucking Snapchat. Like, what are you, 5?
The caption here sheds more light on why McKellar seemed so frustrated, as he typed, "I don't have to be up at 4:30 AM tomorrow or nothing. Let's take our sweet-ass time and have a conversation instead of getting this 3-hour flight done." That frustration obviously can't excuse his comments or his demeanor, as in this scenario he was the teacher, there to support and mentor Connor, yet instead he was lambasting him behind his back on social media, and making it apparent to the young student that he was being a burden, as he tapped his fingers obnoxiously on the plane. And these posts continued from here, as the next Snapchat shows that the two had finally made it inside the craft and had now taken off.
And he's just filming things rather than fucking pay attention to this job if you're this bitchy, yeah. Well, I guess there's some people like that, right? They hate their job, and they're gonna make everybody else's life miserable.
Obviously, there's a lot of context missing here. It could have been possible that Connor had said something that irked McKellar, or that he was just not being responsive to any advice given. But this seems to be immediately disproven by yet another Snapchat that McKellar posted. 1.6 hours into the flight of me giving it to him straight up. Forrest, I don't mind you being hard on me, I know I need it. Me thinking to myself, did you really think I cared if you minded? But what I actually said is that we're flying planes, not driving cars. We can't have these weak areas this far in the game. The caption seemed to confirm that Connor was clearly trying to learn and get better, since after all, he was just a student and only 18.
I guess the asshole just outed himself, like he literally self-reported. Literally self-reported that the student is the nice guy and you're the asshole. I mean, damn.
Years old. But this didn't matter to McKellar, and unfortunately for Connor, this nightmare of a flight was about to get much, much worse.
Man. We know where this is going, so this is so annoying already.
Headed our way like a group of pissed off hornets. McKellar posted, accompanied by a screenshot of a weather radar, showing heavy rainstorms in the direction in which they were headed. This was the final post ever made to McKellar's Snapchat.
Oh my god.
As moments later, the small craft would lose contact with flight control and disappear into the stormy night sky.
Well,
it wouldn't take long for the plane to be found, or at least what was left of it, as using the final posting from Timothy's Snapchat story, a search team was able to track the craft down to a wooded area behind a church, with the flight having ended in a terrible crash due to the turbulence from that storm. And inside that mangled mess of steel were the bodies of Connor Quisenberry and Timothy McKellar, neither of whom survived the impact.
I guess you could say maybe, even though the guy was being an asshole, this isn't really his fault. But like, why were they, with like a small ass plane like that, why were they even like flying into the storm? Like, couldn't you just have turned around? I know with planes, flight and stuff like that, you can't just willy-nilly fly all over the place, right? Because these are the plane and stuff like that, but heading into a storm with that kind of plane seems like a bad idea. So I don't know if it's really like the fault of the teacher there. Though I'm sure he didn't have a thing by being an asshole. Yeah, I don't know.
With Connor's final night on this earth having been spent facing intense ridicule both in real life and on social media, making these Snapchats some of the more depressing content out there on the internet.
I guess so. I guess so. Depressing indeed. English with teacher Luke.
Do not add ed at the end of irregular verbs when making them in the past tense. That's only for regular verbs.
This is Luke Rockwell, or as some of you may know him as Teacher Luke. Raised in Melbourne, Florida, the now 29-year-old was introduced to a wide online audience around the time that TikTok began exploding in popularity in the United States.
Okay.
The premise of his account seemed simple enough from afar. Luke was an excellent speaker and used his understanding of the English language to create short-form videos centered around proper
any story video you want, I might check it out.
pronunciation and phrasing.
Do not say, explain me or explain
You know
me.
who this is?
Instead, you should add the word to. For example, I'm going to explain to you.
Teacher Luke's account had immediately become an
fair
asset
enough.
for foreign speakers to better understand the language, though this wasn't all the account consisted of, as he'd also post a variety of other mildly interesting travel-related videos.
Top countries that are the most dangerous to travel to in the year 2022.
Did they get killed while traveling or something?
Making some more comedic-based content.
I didn't realize until I came to Thailand.
Spoiler, I burn. But damn. Spoiler.
I'm just gonna say it. The weather is just too hot, man, to wear them around your neck.
But none of these were the reason that the account grew
Sorry,
the
it's
size
okay.
it did,
It's fine.
as initially his page was followed by nearly 3 million TikTok users,
3 million,
thanks
huh?
mainly to his more edgy content, leading to some clips that I'm certain some of you have seen before.
Never seen him
How do
before.
you say this word? Today, I'm going to teach you 3
Oh, it's the
different
country.
ways to say this word. Some have a hard R and some do not.
Negro is the common word used to call black people in Thailand. When I first moved
Is
here,
it?
I was shocked to hear it because in Western culture, it's a pretty offensive word.
It's hard to label this content that thrust Luke's page into the spotlight.
I like, yeah, that took a turn. Like, the other clip was like just normal say-so teaching of English, and then suddenly, what?
But I guess it could be described as baiting his audience into thinking he's saying something problematic, but instead making it a loosely educational moment, thus vindicating himself from anything he said. Like I mentioned before, these videos were definitely edgy, so much so that in
Chat's a nice
2020,
puss.
his page was actually terminated by TikTok.
I get it, I
leaving
guess,
him
yeah, that's definitely like a clickbait. Like, if people just see the thumbnail or whatever, with the word or something, they're instantly gonna click, but then it's actually not saying anything weird. I get it. That's actually a pretty smart clickbait, I guess.
All the way back at square one. Undeterred though, he kept on creating, launching a new account under the username English with Teacher Luke. And within only 1 year, it had already gained over 1 million followers back.
1 million followers on this account. Thank you guys so much. It's so crazy that 1 year ago on my old
So he got
account,
deleted for
I hit
clickbait
1
in the first
million
place.
on the same day.
Wow.
His content was seemingly inevitable, with each video being primed for virality.
Mm.
But what many might not have known was that his passion for the English language, as unserious as it may seem from these videos, reached far deeper than just the online world. In 2019, Luke packed his bags and moved all the way across the world to Thailand, where he would use his love of the language to get a job as an English teacher, working with students from K-12 while simultaneously having a flourishing career
Here we
on
go.
TikTok.
Clickbait is a
All
crime.
factions of his life were thriving, and for a moment it seemed
As I always say, like, on one hand, you know, I feel like it's been so many years, all of our favorite YouTubers have started doing clickbait. So, like, we all need to have accepted it. There's no point in crying about it. But, like, literally every day I'm looking at my feed and there's some video with, like, some shitty clickbait from a channel I actually like or something. And I still get mad about it. It's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, I never get over clickbait.
everything in his world was going right. How could he ever fail?
Your worst enemy is yourself?
A US teacher and TikTok star accused in Thailand of having sex with a teenager. Luke Rockwell was released on bail after he was charged in Bangkok with luring a minor for indecent purpose. With one article, one headline, the facade of English teacher Luke had crumbled. But how did it all go so wrong? And what exactly happened that led to his arrest?
Tell me about it.
Well, it started shortly before the news broke, when a 16-year-old living in Bangkok visited her doctor's office, complaining of
Clickbaiting the
intense
content,
stomach
magic
pain and
clickbait title.
discomfort. After administering a series of tests, doctors would determine that the girl had contracted not just one, but 2 STDs,
Whoa.
with her only partner having been Luke Rockwell. Her mother was
Nice
furious upon the
Timofo.
revelation and immediately took her to the police, where a full investigation was done, revealing some truly damning information. It was discovered that before the pair had met up for the first time, they had been messaging back and forth for roughly 5 months, and during this time, Luke lured her and eventually convinced her to sleep with him. And while this is horrible enough, some agencies actually reported
As
that
always,
the
the
girl
most
was a
normal
former
looking people that do
student
shit
and
like
had
this.
become a fan of his content, which led her to reconnect with her former teacher, insinuating that the grooming may have stemmed back even further than just those 5 months. But I need to note that I was unable to find any solid proof of this, so take these reports with a grain of salt. But what is known for sure is that while they were seeing each other, Luke asked the girl to keep their relationship private until she had turned 18,
Of course.
so as to not turn any heads. And during this time, Luke never mentioned having STDs, and instead he promised the girl that he was clean, even lying to the point that he had showed her a
That
copy
is
of
even more fucked up. I mean, obviously it's fucked up that he had, sex with someone underage, but also giving STDs is like insane because he probably knew. That's insane.
of his medical history, which was likely either forged or completely out of date. Luke's actions were heinous, and his words were that of a man who knew he was doing wrong, yet actively trying to get away with it anyway. And if all these charges weren't horrible enough, the investigation into Luke revealed one final proverbial nail in his
Like, why
coffin.
would he think anyone would keep it on the wrap the second they find out to just give them STDs? I mean, why would anyone keep it on the wrap after that?
As the investigators had discovered undeniable proof that these alleged encounters had taken place. Proof that came in the form of video recordings that were all done without the victim's knowledge.
Well, some people
Following the discovery,
yeah.
Luke was arrested and his TikTok page was removed once more.
I mean, it's not always like that, but often, sometimes, like, you see videos about killers and stuff like that, and, like, the person looked totally normal, right? Like, I just watched one yesterday about, like, it was in the US, it was some 86-year-old guy who killed his wife. It just looked like the most normal old man, right? Like, you know, people would say, like, the meme phrase of, like, he couldn't hurt a fly, and yet, yeah. Yeah, it's one of the things where, like, some people say some people look evil, it's obvious or something, but a lot of the time, if you watch video about killers and stuff like that, they frankly look normal. Like, yeah, like, it's not always, like, some people you can tell definitely, but it's not always that easy to just tell what someone really is like, right?
But despite the evidence for these charges lobbied against him, it appears that Luke isn't actually in prison, at least not yet, as after quickly making bail, some internet users claim that they've seen him around Bangkok, enjoying his life and acting as if nothing happened.
Waiting for
Even
trial, I
posting
guess.
stories on what appears to be his secret private Instagram. I was unable to find any updates outside of this, making it unclear whether Luke is still on bail, if he's been taken back into custody, or if he ended up beating the charges. So for now, it's uncertain how Luke's story will end. But it's still disheartening to know that his presence is still looming out there in the
Classic
shadowy
Thailand.
corners of the online world.
I mean, I think a lot of countries have that, right? Like if you pay bail for, even like, I think in America, like even if you kill someone sometime, you might still be able to pay bail to wait for your trial or whatever. So yeah, it's pretty insane, right? It's pretty insane. Reaction channel on Japanese history. Okay. Well, that was fucked up. The vanishing of Wu Xinyu.
October 25th, 2022. The bell rings throughout the halls of the Jiuan Middle School in the Yangtzi province of
Piece by
China,
piece.
marking the start of another class period. Jiuan was not your standard middle school. For starters, it was
Whoa.
massive, stretching
Whoa. That's a crazy looking place. That architecture though.
roughly 600 acres around, and it featured dorm rooms where the students would stay full-time, sometimes even being accompanied by their parents. And on top of this, the huge complex was guarded and enclosed by a large wall topped with barbed wire. It was certainly a unique place, to say the least.
Wait, they said middle school, right? Not fucking prison. Did he not say middle school?
But as the nearly 3,000 students across the campus piled into their different classrooms,
Barbed wire.
failed to take his seat. 15-year-old Hu Xinyu. The teacher waited 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, growing more and more annoyed at the boy's tardiness. However, this annoyance would slowly turn to worry, as by the time the class period had ended, there was still no sign of the boy, prompting an immediate campus-wide search, yet he was nowhere to be found. And most chillingly, there was no record of him leaving out of the school's guarded exit.
Alright.
Confused, staff checked the campus security footage, where they would find Hu walking out of his dormitory, heading in the direction of his class, which was located in a building no more than a few hundred feet away. Yet he never made it there. Instead, the campus cameras revealed a blind spot of only 10 meters between his dorm room and that class building. A blind spot
Always
that
a
no
blind spot.
student and likely no faculty, aside from maybe a select few, could have known about. And yet, within that blind spot, Hu had vanished into thin air. In between these
He escaped. I mean, I'm gonna assume it's a pretty terrible school. If they have to have barbed wire or something, like it's probably very prison-like. Not even as a meme, I'm saying that. So maybe in the blind spot, there was a fence with barbed wire, and you can technically deal with barbed wire, right? Like maybe use the vest, use something to drop over it. So maybe he just escaped.
buildings was a path that led to a large park on the premises, in which many assumed Hu had probably slipped into.
Oh.
But when police checked the area with their tracking dogs, their search yielded nothing. So they took things a step further, this time doing a deeper search of the campus itself, even looking into septic tanks and water tanks, checking every square inch. But again, no trace of the boy was found. All they could uncover was his cell phone and other personal belongings that were left behind in his room, with the only object of his missing being a small recorder that he had purchased a few days before. It was believed that at the time of his disappearance,
Black
that
jacket
recorder
and black
was
mask.
literally the only item he had taken with him. Somehow, this young boy had disappeared within the tightly watched walls of his school, with there being no sign of him on campus and no evidence that he had ever left. Despite the fact that China, and this area in particular, is blanketed in cameras, seemingly watching every single inch.
That's right.
But Hu was
China
nowhere.
is like the
It was
most
as if
surveillance
the school
camera
had swallowed him
by
whole.
far in the world.
Shortly after his disappearance, Hu's mother began desperately posting to Douyin under the account
Douyin.
Hu's mother searching for son, where she begged the public for help in finding her missing child, with the clips of these plaintive pleas sparking immense interest from a vast number of people across the web, leading to the case immediately exploding in popularity. Popularity that only continued to grow as new disturbing
That's sad.
information began to surface. It started with a revelation made by an internet user in China who mentioned that Hu was not the first student to go missing from the school.
Oh.
In fact, these disappearances were becoming seemingly a yearly occurrence, prompting immediate speculation about the school and their potential involvement in these disappearances. With the school becoming more suspicious, as reports began emerging that once police had arrived, they realized that there was data missing from the CCTV cameras, with many of the cameras on the premises conveniently malfunctioning on that specific day that Hu had vanished, almost as if the footage...
I think I'd seen like a stat, it was an insane amount of camera or something. China number of surveillance camera. It was 700 million surveillance camera as of August 2023. Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Which is an insane amount. Yeah. Wait, what am I writing? Square. North Korea probably has a lot too, but it's a much smaller country, so they probably have a lot less, I guess.
And deleted afterwards. But not before one of the guards had supposedly snuck a video, which he claimed exposed what really happened that fateful day.
A video. Whoa. Is he dead?
I'm not sure if I'll be able to show it here, but the grainy CCTV footage shows what looks to be a young boy, lying limp before being placed onto a stretcher and carried away, with many online taking the clip and running with it, claiming adamantly that it was Hu and that he had clearly been kidnapped. And this wasn't the only supposed recording of the incident, with the other evidence coming from the recorder that Hu had been carrying. But although at this point the device was never recovered, one internet user claimed that it featured a cloud storage system, in which he was able to hack into and access Hu's final recording from that day, with this clip being even more disturbing.
A voice recorder with a cloud system. I don't know.
With all these claims and supposed evidence making their way across the internet, everything seemed to point to Hu's disappearance as being one massive conspiracy, one in which the school was not only working to cover up, but also seemed to actively play a role in.
Why would the school kill the students?
What was so special about Hu that made him a target? Well, one account from
was he a bad student
of the very same school stated that before the boy had vanished, the school held a mandatory health evaluation, where Hu's blood was drawn, revealing that his blood type was P. And if that doesn't sound like any sort of blood type you've heard before, it's because it's one of the rarest in the world. As in China, only about 12 out of 1 million people have it. Because of this, it was claimed that Hu had been killed in order for his organs to be harvested and used as a transplant for a local official who shared the same rare blood type.
Maybe.
The story was compelling, and with the school's suspicious history of disappearances, people in the area began to protest at its gate.
I was gonna say, that sounds like an enemy blood.
To which the principal and the staff lashed out in anger, acting crazed as if they had something to hide.
Alright.
Which only added further fuel to
you're not gonna convince people by acting like that.
Disturbing accounts and details coming out from all across the web, the fire raged more and more intensely as the theories grew wilder and wilder. Until January 29th, 2023, when a man walking his dog stumbled across the body of Hu Xinyu as it hung lifelessly in the woods, alongside a brick wall just barely 60 meters away from his school. Next to his body was the voice recorder that had multiple audio messages stating his intentions to end his own life, which was done using his own 2 shoelaces. In the time since his body was discovered, lots of new information has been brought forward by officials, who sternly stated that both the recording and the video of Hu had been completely faked, along with a variety of other details that the press had leaked, and that an autopsy revealed that he had no injuries other than those that were self-inflicted, and most importantly, that the body included all of its organs. It was also discovered that his...
As well as the point is like, the government reporting the stuff, can you really trust them, right? It's like, I don't know, but obviously, you can also see people making up the story, making up that other video, or like running with the story for like that first video, for example. Like you can barely tell who it is. It's way too low quality, but people are just gonna automatically say it's him, it's him.
Revealed that he was more troubled than many had believed, and that he was going through a difficult time, with his grades suffering drastically, leading to these dark thoughts. The whole case was honestly a mess, and especially the coverage during the height of its popularity, as it's now clear that people were simply making up stories and even evidence, which the media ran with.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's like that every single time, any story, right? There's always people online, you know, who think they're detective and they're making up any story. People who like just want to fuck around, and so they, you know, they try to cause chaos by fake evidence and fake stuff.
Without question, leaving us in a strange place where it's impossible to tell which stories and which details were actually real.
Yeah.
But to this day, the case still remains polarizing, with many continuing their suspicion of the school and their involvement, with the most common argument being that the school had been searched over and over and over again, and yet no one saw the body.
I mean, yeah, what about the other students
that
went missing?
To the idea that who could have carried this all out with just his shoelaces, as he was there for over 3 months. Could they really have supported his entire body weight for that long without snapping? Well, some people actually tested out the strength of these shoelaces to see for themselves, leading to various degrees of success.
I guess, yeah. Like when you put it like that, I mean, do you have freaking shoelace made out of nylon or something? Yeah.
Theory that whose body was somehow planted there afterwards, or that it wasn't even him. So despite this case technically being closed and the investigation now over, it's still very much alive here in the online world.
It's definitely a weird one.
What exactly happened to Hu Xinyu?
I guess he didn't really go back to the other students. I mean, one thing would be, was the info about the other student that were missing? Like, how did they end up? What's the situation for them? Is it similar and all that? That leaves a lot of questions, but okay. Interesting. But it's no doubt, like so many times the internet just makes things worse by fucking around. Makes things more confusing.
In trouble in the water? Relax. If there's an emergency, go to the nearest telephone and dial 911. You got it?
I got it. Devla Stevens 911 call. Oh boy.
It was a freak occurrence. 47-year-old Deborah Stevens was making her way through her typical route delivering newspapers when suddenly the skies opened up, dropping down a historic flood on Fort Smith, Arkansas. But knowing she had a job to do, Deborah pushed on, dodging closed and flooded roads in an attempt to get to her usual paper route. A risky decision that proved costly, as upon attempting to take a new path behind a set of apartment buildings, Deborah's car would be swept up into the floodwaters, hitting her vehicle against a set of trees.
Damn, and she's gonna call 911.
911, where's your emergency?
I have an emergency, a severe emergency. I'm in a flooding. My car veered off the road while I was doing my newspapers, and I'm flooded over here on the end of Kincaid, and it's all the way up to my windows, and I can't get out, and I'm scared to death, ma'am. Can you please help me really bad?
I need you to calm down. I need you to tell me where you are.
Upon establishing contact with 911 operator Donna Renew, the two began their work trying to determine where exactly she had been trapped.
I don't know.
As this area was completely
unfamiliar to Deborah. Get to her fast enough.
I don't know, ma'am. I'm on the end of Kincaid down here by these apartments. There's some apartments on Kincaid. I don't know what they're called.
What color is your vehicle?
Yeah, dark. It's gray SUV, lady. The motor's all the way up to my windows.
Okay, hold on for me. Don't hang up. And you're at close to the area 5801.
I mean, maybe it's not smart, but if that was me in that situation, I would not stay in the car. Like, I would try to get out. But I guess maybe the current is too strong, so it would be swept by. But I feel like I would take my chance to be swept by and try to grab on something, rather than just like drown in my car, stuck in my car or something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's the smartest thing. Like, maybe the smartest thing is to stay put and try to get out if you had a window break or something, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I need help right now.
The urgency of the situation is clear just by hearing Deborah's voice.
Yeah.
She pleads with the operator to...
This is actually not the same, but I remember watching another video about something like this. It was some lady that, like, accidentally veered off into a lake, and you know, water hadn't gotten in yet, and so she called 911, and it was a really fucked up call where like the operator didn't really believe her and was kind of laughing at her, you know, that she was like underwater, stuck, and all that, and it was actually true. It was a really fucked up one.
Someone out to her as soon as possible, recognizing that the water was likely going to consume her in the following minutes, leading to Deborah growing more and more panicked.
Please send somebody fast to get me. I'm scared.
Okay, listen to
I
me.
can't
Calm
swim.
down
I
for me.
can't swim.
Ah, she can't swim. Okay.
You're not gonna.
Yeah. I guess that changes it. I mean, again, maybe the current is too fast anyway to swim, but if you can't swim, yeah, you would want to stay in the car, I get it.
Drown. Just calm down.
Well, ma'am, it's all the way up to my chest.
Okay,
Please,
listen, I understand. Hold on for me.
I'm scared. I'm sorry.
It's fine to be scared. You have a right to be scared. Hold on.
I'm scared.
Though this is where this fairly normal 911 call begins to take a strange turn, as Deborah's urgency was not reciprocated by the operator.
She sounds a bit chill,
Not only dismiss
but
Deborah's worry,
like she sounds chill, but at the same time, isn't it what the operator do, right? They try to calm yourself down as much as they can, I guess.
but seemingly become annoyed at the trapped woman.
Somebody save me.
Am I not on the phone with you trying to get you some help?
Yes, but I need somebody to get me out.
Oh yeah, okay, no. Now she's sounding like a bitch, okay. It's worse when natural disaster come out of nowhere very near you, can't do anything about that, yeah, obviously. As I always say, I feel kind of lucky, like in France, we don't really have earthquake, typhoons, stuff like that, so for the most part we're fine. I mean, I've never experienced anything too extreme, like just strong wind or something. Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry.
You're not gonna die. I don't know why you're freaking out. It's okay. I know the water level is high. I understand that, but you're freaking out doing nothing but losing your oxygen up in there. So just calm down.
I mean, I'm guessing she's like the operator lady probably had a bad day or something, but fuck. Why would you say shit like this? Huh? She's literally telling you that she's in a car underwater and she can't swim. Like, by saying this shit, what if she actually dies? And then there's this recording of you being such a bitch and all that. Like, I'm sure you know, like, she sounds like someone who's had a bad day at her job or something, but fucking hell. Like, you're literally talking to someone who might just die. And you're talking to them like this. The last thing they're gonna hear is someone just, you know, talking to them like shit.
Hear me?
You said what? I'm sorry?
When are they gonna be here?
As soon as they get there.
Man, my phone's gonna die, and they're not gonna find me, and it's gonna ruin my brand new phone.
Do you really care about your brand new phone? I mean, you're over there crying for your life. Who cares about your
phone? Oh my god.
And this frustration only grew more and more visceral as she then began to place the blame onto Deborah for getting into this predicament in the first place.
Hold on, okay?
Thank you. I'm sorry if I'm rude, but I'm scared.
You're not being rude. I know you're scared. Just calm.
The worst part is like the lady in the car sounds super nice, right? Like the way she keeps apologizing for being rude. Like you're literally about to drown underwater. You can be as rude as you want.
Down for me.
I'm scared. I've never had anything like this happen to me before.
Well, this will teach you next time. Don't drive in the water.
Couldn't see it, ma'am. I'm sorry, or I wouldn't.
I don't see how you didn't see it. You had to go right over it, so.
No, ma'am. I was in a truck. I was in a parking lot. There was no water where I was at.
Okay. The water just didn't appear.
At this point, the call had been going on for well over 50.
Fuck, she sounds annoying. I mean, again, like, you want to give some leeway to the operator. Like, it's a job where you keep hearing people, like, always, you know, sometimes you hear people fucking die on the phone and stuff like that, so that must mess you up, but man, like, no humanity, no fucking humanity.
15 minutes, but still no help had become visible to Deborah, who, despite knowing just how close to death she was, remained as composed as she could be, just thankful to have someone there talking to her, even if that person on the other end of the line was dismissing her and demeaning her.
I'm sorry, ma'am. What's your name?
Donna.
Donna, thank you for being here for me, Miss Donna.
You're welcome.
Though all of this failed to stop the obvious annoyance of the operator, who after nearly 20 minutes now, couldn't help but sneak in a laugh.
Oh my god.
In between both apartment complexes on this street, at the dead end.
In the very back side, there's a bunch of trees.
Right there, she showed 5801 at the end.
Before finally just losing it.
These people
are taking
all see me, all standing out there watching.
Miss Debbie, you're gonna have to shut up, okay? I need you to listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
The whole call had been leading up to this
Are you an operator? Like, seriously? What a piece of shit.
moment, as Donna's frustration had finally boiled over, as she straight up tells the helpless woman to shut up.
Damn.
Despite
This makes me so
demand,
fucking
Deborah
mad.
couldn't keep quiet for
This
long,
makes me so
as the
fucking mad.
situation that was teetering on the edge of life and death suddenly collapsed.
And again, maybe she has had a lot of cases like this where people are panicking so much and nothing is actually that serious. So she's just annoyed, but even then, like, literally a job where you... Yeah, I don't think I need to explain.
I'll pin your location, so don't hang up on me. Okay, where are you moving to? Tell me where it's going. Okay, tell me where you are.
Damn, this is fucked up.
Hold on. I'm on the phone with her right now. She is legit freaking out. She said the vehicle is now moving in the water and she doesn't know which way it's going, so stand by. Okay, stop. Bye. Okay, stop. Bye. Okay, stop. Bye. Okay, stop. Bye. Okay, stop.
I'm guessing she died. I'm guessing there's no happy ending. Maybe despite everything she survived. Body cam.
I'm standing around the very back side of the apartment complex on the southeast side, and the only part of her car I can see is the roof and the dome light that's on in it.
I guess right now, maybe he came later, I don't know, but right now it doesn't look like there's insane current. Yeah.
I can't get out there to her.
How did the car get swept up?
It would take officers approximately 12 hours to find Deborah's
12
car,
hours.
where inside she was dead. Her final moments of life being captured on a 911 call, where the operator couldn't even pretend to care. In her predicament was
And I'm sure the operator will get nothing for that, right? And like, you know, just she'll be fine.
More heartbreaking in hindsight, as it was revealed that Deborah was handicapped and couldn't even swim. In
Yeah.
fact, she had a crippling fear of water. Following the release of this dispatch call,
Operator didn't believe her, yeah.
heavy criticism was immediately placed onto Donna Renew, with hundreds and thousands of people signing petitions calling for criminal charges to be made against her.
Yeah.
But no such charges were
Of course,
made.
of course.
In fact, she wasn't even fired for her role.
Of course.
Because this was her final shift.
I'm literally not surprised one bit. Every time you see a story like this is what happens. Like, literally no fuck given. Like, she's a hero. I mean, she did her best on the phone. She's an absolute hero, right?
Anyway, she had submitted her 2 weeks notice exactly 2 weeks before, and this just so happened to be her final shift, which perhaps explains her attitude.
Even then.
And with one last cruel twist to the story, just 3 weeks after Deborah's passing, her mother Nancy would pass as well, with family members claiming that it was due to a broken heart.
Yeah.
And the stress caused
That makes
by the
sense.
ordeal.
That makes sense.
Though despite this and the fact that Donna Renew has never apologized for her actions, Deborah's family has gone on to forgive her nonetheless, with this amazing act of virtue shining a faint light on one of the darkest cases I've ever come across.
I always hate this kind of videos. You know, it's like you can't help yourself watching it, but the videos where there's like, you know, recording, like audio recording of someone's final moments or something, it's fucked up. It's fucked up. Alright, well, that was a good one. I mean, like, it's weird to say it's a good one, but it's more like it was interesting. But this was pretty depressing. Every single story, obviously. Man, so depressing. Alright, thank you, Mr. Crowley. I feel very happy after watching this. Yeah, I shouldn't complain, I chose this video. I chose the video.